Okay, great. So if you haven't already, please grab your strap. We're going to use that today. And just collect up your other pieces of props, whatever you might like. We may use some other stuff too, like blocks and things like that, but the strap is the only one that I have sort of a real plan for. Hi, Cindy. Um, so let's come and find constructive rest to start. And you're more than welcome to take any shape that does work for you just to kind of get centered and get started. So, seated or whatever works for you. And if you are lying down, just gather up your stuff so that you have it handy so you don't have to reach for it. So I'm just going to come and lay on my back, feet on the floor, knees bent, let the knees fall together. Feet are a bit wider than the hips. And I'm just putting my hands on my belly. And we can take a few nice deep breaths in through the nose and out through the mouth. Just taking a moment to notice how you're feeling. To notice the ground beneath you and your relationship with that ground, that land. So as many of you know, one of the things that I'm really doing when I practice yoga is connecting with my body. So for me, the practice is never really so much about which poses we're doing, but more so being in a practice of feeling inwardly. And I've started to really think about that as it's not just the individual body as if it was in a vacuum, but also how my body is in relationship with the natural world, the season, the moon, the light and the darkness, all of those kind of natural world things. Like our nervous systems are sort of plugged into those things all the time. And so when we're feeling into what's happening in the body, we're also feeling into these other aspects that we share as a community. And one of the things that's happening tonight, like in the early hours of tomorrow morning, is a lunar eclipse, a blood moon. So if you feel like waking up at, I think it's around 1 or 2 in the morning, you might be able to see the blood moon happening, which is always a really kind of beautiful and dramatic moment. And eclipses are like full moons plus. So if you do notice that you feel the moons, that they kind of affect your mood or anything else, it's all just a little intensified when we have an eclipse. So I just want to name that if you are feeling like there's some wild energy happening, there are a few reasons for that aren't just about you. So we can kind of plug into that and just let ourselves feel some of that intensity or some of that wildness and just breathe anyway. So let's just let ourselves do that for a moment or two here, just breathing into however you're connecting with the wildness of the world right now. So when you're ready, you can reach for your strap. We're just going to start right away with this nice little leg hip release. And if you don't have a strap, belt or scarf works just as well. So you're just going to take that prop around the ball of your foot, bend your knee. So I've got my right foot here. And we're just going to press the heel up as we pull the strap gently down. So I'm holding onto either edge of the strap and I'm just pulling down to get my calf a little bit of release. Your left leg can be bent or straight. You can sort of see what feels good for you. And as we're pulling down on the strap up on the heel, the focus is a little bit more into the calf. You can explore, coming forward or back a little, bending your knee a little more, a little less. And it might also be interesting to pull down on the outer arch of the foot and press the ball of the big toe into the strap. Sometimes that's a little bit of a different sensation there. And then when you're ready, we can shift the intention a little bit. So a little more hamstring. So I'm just straightening my leg a bit. You certainly don't have to go all the way to straight, and you're just bringing the foot a little more up towards your face. And you may feel the stretch move down into the hamstring area, but you'll probably still feel the calf anyway, which is just fine. And here it might be helpful to think about the outer hip rolling down a little. Just nice deep breaths. Okay, and then when you're ready, we'll open into the inner thigh groin release. So I've just got my left hand on my left thigh, and I'm gonna open my leg out to the right side. So just taking it as far as it will comfortably go. And I like to have usually my elbow on the ground. This sort of depends on your flexibility, just so that I'm not kind of yanking too much. I happen to have my foot actually leaning on the wall here, and that's feeling nice for me right at the moment. I like a little bit of support with this one because I can sometimes go a little bit farther than is good for me. So you just want to be feeling like a stretch of the inner part of the thigh, and that's enough. And breathing into the belly. Nice, and then we'll come back up through center, and we're gonna go across. So what I'd recommend you do is take the strap in your left hand, both ends of the strap, take your right thumb into your right hip crease, and just roll the thigh, the outer thigh down a little bit towards the bottom of your mat, ground the hip into the mat, and carefully take the leg across your body. So it's not gonna go that far, your hip is staying down on the ground, but as you move the leg to the left and up towards your face slightly, you'll probably feel something in the outer leg, outer hip. Try to keep the foot flexed. This one can be relatively intense, so just breathe here. And then you can bring the leg all the way to the floor. So go ahead and let your hip lift, and we'll come into a little bit of a twist. So right arm can go out to the right, and you can keep holding the foot if you want, or you can stack the knees if it's feeling just a little bit too intense to have the leg floating there. So just sort of depending on how you're feeling, working with a little bit of a twist here. Nice heavy shoulders. You can look to the right if you like. Lovely. And then when you feel ready, we'll come back through center. So you can use the strap or not, just kind of however you're coming out. And you might want to hug the knees into the chest. You could put the feet on the floor or straighten them out like Shavasana. And just take a moment to notice sort of how the two sides of your body feel. This is like a leg stretch exercise, but I always feel like a release in my lower back when I do this work. If you want to take windshield wipers, sometimes that's nice too. And you're probably feeling like, oh man, let's do that second side. So let's do it. Okay, so you can take the strap around the ball of your left foot now, or second leg. Right leg can be bent or straight. And again, we're starting with drawing the strap down, heel up, and keeping a little bit of a bend in the knee. So we want to just explore a little bit into the calf, which we don't necessarily always really target the calf in yoga, but it can really help to give it a little bit of love. And you can draw down on that outer part of the foot and press up a little bit into the ball of the foot. And breathe. When you're ready, a little bit more hamstring, so maybe a bit of a straighter leg, and the intention is less straight down and a little bit more towards the face. It might not look like anything though. Don't feel like you have to go anywhere in particular. We're just looking for some sensation or along the back of the leg. And again, you'll probably still feel your calf, which is great. Nice. Okay. And then we'll take each end of the strap in the left hand. Right hand can rest on the top of the thigh if the leg is straight. And we're just opening the leg until we feel a stretch in the inner thigh. So again, it doesn't have to be that far. And I'm relatively flexible, so this might not be like a useful thing to think about for you, but I've got my elbow down on the ground, and that just ensures that I'm not pulling my leg too hard. With gravity is a little too much for me for this one, so I want to make sure I'm actually a little supported. Some of you, if you're quite a bit tighter, you might want to work with a little bit of gravity, but there just shouldn't be any pain wherever you are. It should feel like a nice, sustainable stretch. Nice. And then when you're ready, we'll come back up through center. Hold the strap in the right hand, take the left thumb into the hip crease, ground the hip into the mat, and roll the thigh a little bit down towards your bottom of your mat, and take the leg towards the right. So again, it might not look like much for me. I'm going like a few inches, and I'm definitely really feeling the stretch here. And this is another one of those nooks and crannies that we don't always really target this area in our practice, but man, it's helpful when we can release this a little bit, especially if there's been some lower back stuff going on. Try to keep breathing nice and deep. And then you can take the leg all the way towards the floor. Just gonna move it a little bit so I have that space. And if that doesn't feel safe, just knees on top of each other is great. And you can play with it, see if it feels good. We don't have to have the foot touching the floor. And again, this is just a little bit more of a twist kind of a thing, so it's okay if you don't feel too much in the hips and legs. And then when you're ready, you can come back through center, set the strap to the side. And again, you might want to hug the knees into the chest, rock side to side. You might extend the legs. So stillness or movement. I'm taking the windshield wipers right now. And then let's hug the knees into the chest and just take a little happy baby, which is quite nice for the lower back as well. So holding the ankles, shins, feet, whatever is accessible to hold. And you can give that a little bit of a rock from side to side. Nice. Okay, when you're ready, let's let that go. Place the feet on the floor just in front of the hips. Place the hands on the low belly. Inhale. And as you exhale, gather your pelvic floor in and up and scoop your belly button back towards your heart, but keep the spine neutral. So there's just that little bit of space underneath the lower back. Inhale. And as you exhale, slide your right leg forward on the mat. It doesn't have to completely straighten. And as you exhale, draw it back. Inhale, left leg goes long onto the mat. Exhale, bring it back in. Okay, so we're just going to work with this to start. And I'd love for you to think about trying to keep your pelvis really steady and keep the belly button drawing in and up. So this is a lovely core conditioning exercise that we can do that's quite functional. So this is safe for almost everybody to do. If you're okay to lay on your back, you can pretty much do this one, it just sort of encourages all of those deep core muscles to wake up and do their work of supporting us, which we need, all of us. And you're more than welcome to keep working there, or we'll just add on a little bit. I'm just doing one more each side here. There we go. And then you can lift up the legs if you want to ramp it up a little bit and start tapping one foot down at a time. So it's interesting and useful, I think, to start with the shoulders and head on the ground. It's just a little bit of a different feeling. Sometimes we kind of overuse the upper abdominals. And it's nice to just make sure that we're really waking up those lower abdominals. So that's kind of where you want to feel it. You can add curl shoulder blades, lifting them up off the mat. You'll feel your upper abdominals working a little bit more. But if you feel like your belly's popping forward, maybe it's a good idea to keep the head down so that you can just keep working on that part. Yeah. And if this is feeling easy and you want even a little bit more, you could straighten the legs. That's just going to give you a little bit more weight for the core to be lifting. Okay, so wherever you are, I don't really care which of these you're doing. What I care about is that you're kind of feeling a little bit of work in the low belly, the belly button drawing in and up. Shaking is okay. You really just want to look out for the belly popping forward, or if you're feeling like quite stressed out, you want to be like in a place where you feel like it's sustainable for you to do this work for a little while. One of the great wisdoms of yoga is that when we're not stressed out, the body can really do a lot. It can strengthen, it can heal. When we are stressed out, we kind of interrupt that process. So if you're feeling stressed, back off a little bit. Let it be gentle and trust in the power of that. Okay, same goes if you're feeling like, whew, that's enough. Okay, I've got a couple more in me today, I think, so you're welcome to come with me if you're still feeling okay. If you're feeling like it's enough, you rest, that's fine. Okay, I'm gonna do one more each side here. And then relax. So you can hug the knees in, maybe rock side to side. Beautiful. And let's do a little psoas release here. So this one, you guys probably know, I love this one. I will move off our backs after this one. So we'll take, excuse me, a prop. The low brick is what I'm going to use today, just on its lowest height. You could use 2 bricks, you could use a lower cushion, you could use a blanket, you could use nothing, okay? So just wedging something underneath the back of your pelvis. And then stay or carefully straighten out your right leg. If that feels safe, bring in your left knee, give it a hug towards your left shoulder, flex that right heel and press forward. So release into the psoas, breathing into the belly. And if you have been feeling some of that intensity, some of that wildness that's been going on, this is one of the places it can kind of get wound up in our bodies. So if we can breathe here, sometimes we can let a bit of that go. Okay, and then when you're ready, one foot to the earth and then the other. Take a breath. And then second side, left leg goes out. If appropriate, the right knee comes in. Oh, this is the side for me today, apparently. So hugging that knee nice and wide and just nice, heavy, long left leg, foot is flexed. And just breathing as much space in the belly as you can. Awesome. And then you can gently release one foot to the earth and with the other. And feel free to stay here or straighten both legs if you'd like to try that. Reach the arms up over your head, just take a nice active stretch over that prop. And then we'll release. So feet to the floor, lift the bum, slide the prop out from under you, and then you could straighten the legs and kind of flop out or hug the knees into the chest. So whatever feels like the right counter pose for you, just take a moment there. Awesome. And then let's roll to one side. So I'm on my left side now. Let's do a little butt core. We'll do core all over the body today, as we often do. So knees are pointing down slightly towards the just down of the hips. Back is neutral. Core is very gently engaged, like maybe 10%. Feet are flared. Open your knees. Lift the foot. Close the knees and then bring the feet together. So it's this kind of funny moving clamshell. So the knees open, the foot lifts, knees come together, feet come together. Yeah, so I inhale when the knee lifts, and then I exhale when the knee comes down. Okay, try to keep your hips stacked, which for me means slightly pressing the hips forward. Just waking up those outer hip muscles, which is so beneficial for supporting the sacrum and the pelvic floor and just all of that whole pelvis lower back area. Just two more of these. And then relax. You can take your soft fist and pad out the outer hip. And then we'll just do one more, my favorite hip circle. So straighten the leg, point the toe, and circle. So I'm just going to put my right hand in front of me for a little bit more support. Again, it's maybe 10% engagement through the core. Doesn't have to be a lot. Just taking, not really so much with the breath here. Just a nice circle that's big enough that you're kind of feeling it. And then we'll reverse the direction of the circle. Just feeling that work in the glute and that sort of outer hip region here. Awesome. And then relax. You can pad out the hip. Nice. And then hold on to the foot. Point the knee down towards the bottom of your mat. Squeeze your bum, tuck your tailbone a little bit, push the foot into the hand into the foot until you feel your quadriceps stretching. Okay, you might play with lifting the knee just slightly or lowering it slightly. There should be no pain in the knee, but you can kind of get different stretches in the quadriceps. They're called quads because there are 4 of them. So just feeling into that place. Good. And then release that. Draw the knee in towards your shoulder. And if you're comfortable, try straightening the leg. You can hold the foot or the toes if you want. Just get a little bit more of that sort of inner hamstring groin. And gently release. Nice, you guys. We'll roll over to the second side. So I'm supporting my head in my hand, but you could be resting on your arm or on a pillow. You want to have a nice neutral spine here. Knees are just not straight forward, but slightly down. Toes are flared. Open the knees. Open the feet. Bring the knees together, feet together. So inhale and exhale. I think of this one as kind of moving in like a little wave. Gentle engagement through the core. Nice long, deep breaths. Just one more. Good, and then relax. You can pad out the other hip. And then straighten out your leg, point the toes. Again, little engagement through the belly, support with your hand in front of you if needed, and start working with those circles. So I find that actually the slower you go, the more intense it is. So just kind of finding that pace that's right for you today. And reverse the circle. Just trying to make sure that you're going a little in front and a little behind the hip, above, and there's sort of the intention of below. It doesn't have to really be far below. And just feeling that work in the outer hip. I know that in the moment it doesn't feel good, but it really helps feeling good in general. And there we go. Relax. You can pad out the outer hip. Nice, everybody. And then hold on to the foot. Excuse me. Point the knee down towards the bottom of the mat. Tuck your tailbone under, squeeze your bum a little bit, push the foot into the hand into the foot until you get that nice juicy stretch in the front of the thigh. And then you can go a little up and down. And again, we're not looking for any knee pain here, but just looking for, you know, where is that spot where you get that good stretch. Nice, and then we'll release that. Draw the knee up towards the armpit. You could straighten the leg and get that little bit of opening here. Awesome, and then let's gently release that, and we can come up to a seat. You can give your legs a little shake. And then I'd recommend sitting on a little piece of support. Okay, so first the hips. So you can extend your legs out in front of you and then take one ankle onto the opposite side. This is my right leg, but we'll obviously do both sides. So we're taking cobbler's pose, fingertips behind you, heart pressing up towards the shin, and you might want to rock a little bit from side to side. Excuse my coughing, just recovering from a cold. And then when you're ready, we'll release that. You can give your legs a little shake. And then come to the second side. This is my left ankle, just bending up the right knee. Heart towards the shin, fingertips behind you, and you can rock a little. Maybe just kind of exploring where the right spot is. And gently releasing that. And extend the legs, give them a little shake again. And then we'll just take a comfortable seat. Sorry. So you can sit cross-legged, you can have the knees bent, you can sit on your heels, just whatever feels comfortable for you. You're going to work a little bit with the upper back and shoulders. And I'd love for you to grab your strap again. I always find there's a day recovering from a cold where like talking makes me cough. So sorry about that, you guys. So we're going to take that strap up to the forehead level, palms face forward, elbows underneath the wrists, shoulders pulled down the back, just tall, long neck. Okay. And then as you inhale, we're going to lift a little bit. And as you exhale, we're going to lower. So this is what I like to call shoulder core, because much like other types of core, it's not so comfortable, but man, it helps. It's strengthening all those little muscles that help us to have shoulders that sit in the right place. Just with the breath, try to keep the jaw relaxed. Let's take one more here. And relax, just take a moment to let your hands come to your lap, and you might notice your shoulders sort of sit differently. So take the prop around behind you. Excuse me, you guys, sorry, I know that's annoying. Palms face forward about shoulders distance apart. Hug the shoulders down the back and pull the prop apart. And then just gently lift your chest towards the sky. Okay, and then relax. And again, just feel that. And we're going to do round 2. Okay, so again, palms face you, holding the strap. You want to actively pull the strap apart and hug the elbows in at the same time, which is kind of what's challenging about this. If you don't have a strap, just pretend. Okay. Lift and lower. The tensor band is perfect. Belt is great. Whatever you got. Jaw relaxed. Let's try for one more. Whew, nice. And then relax. And just again, notice. And again, let's take that prop around behind the back. Shoulders distance are wider. Hug the shoulder blades down the back. Pull the prop apart. Maybe lift the chin a little. Okay, and you might try pulling the right hand a little more to the right as you bring the right ear a little closer to the shoulder. Just getting the neck a bit there. Okay, and then other side, left hand pulls a little harder than the right as the left ear comes towards the left shoulder. And through center, relax. Noticing the shoulders. Yeah, you can give them a little roll. Okay, fingertips beside you. Reach one arm up. So I'm gonna mirror you now. So this, let's say right arm up, doesn't really matter, we'll do both sides. Walking those left fingertips away, just taking a nice little side stretch. Pressing both sit bones down. And if you like, holding the side of your head. Tipping the chin up. And gently release back through center. And come to the second side, reaching up. Maybe holding the side of your head. Sit bones grounded, ribs drawing back slightly. And gently release. Again, feel that. You can give your shoulders a little roll if you want. Okay, last thing here, if you want to adjust your, excuse me, your seat, you can take your opposite shin in front. Just give me 1 second, you guys, sorry. Okay, so you can hold your strap behind you if you want, or hold opposite elbows just to help keep the shoulders on the back. And just keep that nice and relaxed. Comfortable seat, whatever that looks like for you. Let your chin come down towards your chest. And then gently, slowly roll to one side. And then to the other side. So just nice and slow. Eyes can be closed. Massaging the neck. And side to side a few times. And maybe letting the chin come down for a few breaths. And just letting it be heavy, letting the back of the neck release. And then eventually coming back up through center, release your arms. Again, you can roll the shoulders if you like. Lovely. Okay, let's come to cat and cow. So hands and knees, if that's comfortable for you. Though this can be done seated if you prefer, for sure. Fingers spread or on fists, knees underneath the hips. Inhaling into a little back bend, exhaling to round. So we've already done so much work in different areas of the body without really getting very far away from the ground. And I think we're going to stay pretty close to the ground for a while. So just noticing how you're feeling in your shoulders, your neck, your belly, your hips. Eyes can be closed. You're welcome to make circles or move side to side, just kind of see what feels right. And you can keep working there, or we'll come into a downward dog, so tucking the toes and lifting up your hips. little bit of a bend in the elbows, hugging them slightly together, a little bend in the knees, pressing the hips up to the sky. And feel free to move with it. Sort of doing an incorrect thing by keeping my socks on. But we won't be here too long. Okay, and you can keep working as you are, or come into a forward fold for a few breaths. So walking the feet forward towards the hands, little bend in the knees, and just let gravity take the weight of the head and the shoulders. So you might do that with your elbows on your bent knees, which is a little more supportive for your lower back if you need it. Or you can hold opposite elbows or dangle, just let the fingertips touch, however works for you. Again, with movement is great, stillness is great too. Something so soothing about a forward fold. Okay, and we're gonna go right back to downward dog when you're ready. So we're not even gonna stand up all the way. So go ahead and walk your feet back. And then bring your knees down. Bring your hips to your heels, and let's take a couple of water wheels. So we'll do this with a little bit of a core intention. So you're gonna draw your belly in, come forward until you're kind of in a plank pose. So you might need to walk your hands forward a bit. And then just pause in that place where you feel a little bit of work in your core, and then use it to pull yourself back. Draw your belly in, curling forward. So really drawing belly button to spine, and then finding that little moment, maybe looking forward. And then use the core to pull back, but the core will soften as you come towards the heels, and that's fine. So just a little pulse in and out. And one more time. And this time we'll lower to the ground, bending the elbows in and come all the way to the earth. Okay, so we'll do a little bit of prone work here. So one that I quite like is Cobra with the arms in a cactus. So press the tops of the feet down into the mat, kneecaps lift, pubic bone presses down. Inhale and just lift your chest a little bit, elbows can lift too. And as you exhale, come down. So you don't have to go very far, okay? Lifting the chest and the elbows, just pressing into the ground as much as you want to. If you want to come up higher, you can bring the hands closer, but you don't have to. Okay, this is a nice little squeeze and release for the lower back, generally therapeutic. Kind of helps to get imbalances out of the lower back. Let's just do one more. If you're comfortable here, hold. Shoulders down, nice long neck. And then release, come all the way down to the belly. Relax the heels, take a couple breaths. Okay, so find your strap again if you have one. You can do this with fingers interlaced, but it's a little nicer with the strap. Palms will face the floor. Shoulders distance or a bit wider. Again, engage the legs, thighs, pubic bone presses down, glutes are engaged. And then draw the shoulders back and lift your chest just very lightly. So it's barely a back bend. This is really more about the shoulders. So look down. And just squeeze the shoulder blades together, pull the strap away from the crown of your head. And then you can do that little rocking from side to side that we did in our seat before. So you can pull a little bit more on the right, and then a little bit more on the left. You just get a little bit of a wash from side to side for the upper back. And if this isn't feeling safe and you want to do it with your chin down, you could do that too. And then release, come on down and take a little rest. Relax your bum, your heels, you can have a cheek to the floor. And then let's take child's pose, your favorite variation. So knees as wide as you like, hips to heels, reaching forward or bending the elbows, or hands by the hips, just whatever you like. Okay, and I'd like to take pigeon today. So if you have a bolster, you can use it. I really like it for pigeon. You don't necessarily need it, and we won't be here too long. It's a little bit more of a yin pigeon, but I like it anyway. So I've got my 2 blocks up near the top of my mat, and I've got my bolster beside me here. So I'll go from hands and knees. You could do it from a seat too. You basically just want to bring your right knee forward so that the shin is down, and then from there, I'm going to slide the bolster under my hips. Okay, for some of you, it might be better to sit over onto that right hip and have the back knee bend, especially if you don't have any props, you could do it that way. You could also put a little cushion or something underneath your right hip. You could take the blocks, drop tailbone down, lengthen. And eventually come down to your elbows. So this shouldn't hurt your knee at all, but it should feel like a pretty good stretch in your hips. So remember, you can lean sort of over to the right to take a bit of the pressure off if you need to. And just take some nice full breaths. Kind of imagine you could breathe into your lower back. Beautiful. And then when you're ready, we'll rise back up. And you can extend back through hands and knees or even downward dog. I'm just going to come through seat. So I'm sitting onto my right hip, bringing my left leg to the front and then taking the windshield wipers. And then we'll come to the second side. So I'm just leaning left, extending my right leg back. And again, that back knee could be bent. You could straighten it if possible. You take a moment to lengthen. You can shift forward or back on that prop. You can slide it under you, just kind of finding that place where you feel safe. Ideally, the entire front shin is down. Lengthen and melt. And you could have the blocks under your elbows. I often like to put the blocks under my chest and or my forehead, and then my shoulders can relax a little bit more depending on how I'm feeling. And pigeon is such a nice one when there is some energy kind of tied up in the body. Sometimes it can feel pretty intense, but it's also a really nice release. Awesome. And then when you feel ready, we'll gently press ourselves back up. Again, you can lean over onto that left hip, bring the back leg around, and wash. Okay, so I'd like for us to take a little bit of a restorative shape or a yin shape before Shavasana. So I'm going to offer one, but if you have a favorite shape that you like to take, including legs up the wall, or you could lay on the back with a prop underneath your bum, or Shavasana. So there's lots of different options. Otherwise, you can try this one with me. So um, I've got my bolster around behind me. This could be a long pillow, or it could be a couch cushion or something like that. Depending on what you're working with, you might do this a little bit differently, but if you've got the bolster, have it here. And then I've got a low prop for under my head as well. And I have my 2 bricks here as well. So I'm taking soles of the feet together, knees open wide. You don't have to do that part, certainly. I'm going to lay back over the bolster so that it's kind of in my mid back, and my shoulders are dropping in between these 2 props here. I'm going to open my arms out to the sides. This is a nice variation of a back bend, shoulder opening pose that allows my shoulders to kind of fall down my back, and my head is just lightly supported here. If you have a lower prop or smaller prop, you could just put it underneath your upper back and just lay back. You may or may not need something under your head, so it can be a little bit of a milder one. And if you don't like this one, you do have the bolster, you can just spin the bolster so it's in line with your spine, and that works pretty well for many people. Okay. So I'm just gonna come check in here. And this should feel relatively comfortable. Bit of a stretch is fine. We're not gonna be here for too long. And again, just taking a little rest to help to sort of process however your nervous system, however your body has been responding to what's happening in your natural environment, which if you're in BC or Alberta, that includes a really big storm. We don't need to think about these things. We don't need to sort of cognate about them. Part of our practice can be allowing ourselves to feel without judging or analyzing. And maybe that's not an easy process, but seeing if we can just stay curious about the sensations that we're feeling in the body and just letting that be all we're doing. This is a lovely way of taking Shavasana, which we're going to transition into now. So feel free to stay as you are. Maybe you just want to straighten out the legs and keep your upper body as it is. Or maybe you want to roll to one side and adjust so that you're in a really comfortable position, whatever that means to you. Classically, Shavasana is just laying on the back, bolster under the thighs is really nice for many people in Shavasana. Legs up the wall is there. You could be in child's pose or laying on your side or even in a seat, just wherever you feel safest and most comfortable to kind of rest and receive the work of your practice. And after all that work we did today, I'd especially love for you to find a place where you can relax your shoulders. When you get there, take a nice deep breath. Just be here. Notice how you're feeling right now. Bring a little more breath into whatever that is, keeping in mind that if you're feeling like you need to stay, you can. You could start to bring some movement into your toes and fingers. Good stretch. You could draw your knees in towards your chest. And roll to one side. And then press yourself up into a seat. You could bring your hands together at your heart or over top or just whatever feels right for you. And then gently bow your mind to your hands, your heart, your breath, your nervous system, the ways that you feel connected or not to everything that's going on around you, to your larger community, to whatever it took for you to get to your practice today. Honoring and acknowledging the long and complex lineage of teachers that was with us when we practice our yoga. And honoring and acknowledging the land that we practice on, wherever that may be in the world. Thank you for sharing that practice.